Not accepted. Well, we need to be quite quick, actually. Yeah, I'm ready.
Thank you.
Cool.
Good afternoon, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Economic and Cybercrime Committee. As you're aware, the public element of this meeting is being live streamed, and those participating in the meeting have given consent to their inclusion. The recording will be available on the City Corporation's YouTube channel following the meeting, and it shall be retained for up to 1 civic year. Whilst we endeavour to live stream all our public meetings, technical difficulties may sometimes prevent live broadcast. In these instances, we aim to upload a recording after the end of the meeting. All personal data will be processed in accordance with the Data Protection Act 2018, and for any further information on that, please feel free to contact us. Chair.
Thank you, Town Clerk, and welcome members and officers and those watching and joining online as well. We have a packed agenda, but also a shorter meeting, and I'll explain later why we had to shorten it slightly. So members need to bear with me if I'm being too harsh. Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. At item 1, we have received apologies from Naresh Sompar, Deputy Christopher Hayward, and Deputy James Thompson. Are there any others to be aware of?
No, there are none.
Thank you. At item 2, declarations under the Code of Conduct in respect of items on the agenda. I have not received any notice of declarations unless there's any we should be aware of.
There are none. Town Clerk.
Thank you. At item 3, we have the minutes from the previous meeting held on 8th of September. These are to agree on pages 5 to 10.
First, for accuracy, and then any questions on matters arising? None. Welcome. They are approved.
Thank you, Chair. At item 4, we have the Policing Plan Performance Report, Quarter 2 to 2025 to 26. This is for information on pages 11 to 38.
So it's item 4, Tor, or how we're, yeah.
Thank you very much. Quarter 2 has been a good quarter, both locally and nationally. Following the discussion of last ESCCC, we have put the red-green headers in, so it's much more clear where any areas of concern are. If I start with the local city performance, first of all, and I'll cover mainly the areas of any concern or information just to provide explanation. So last time round, we had a conversation about tech disruptions and age disseminations on page 16 and 18. Tech disruptions continues to be down this quarter, but the detail behind that is last year we had 170,000 account details recovered on one device, and that is quite a rare occurrence. So as you can see, we're more in line with 23-24 performance and an improvement on that than an outlier year last year. In terms of age disseminations, Q2, it's good and we are in the green, but just to give you some context, because a member asked last time, we have 50 live investigations currently in National Functions Operations. 13 of those are over 2 years old, so the vast majority are under our fraud investigation model requirement. Of those 13, 8 have had charges authorised and are in the court system, but court availability is resulting in cases being listed for 2027. We so look forward to the opening of the Economic Crime Court locally. Of the others, 2 have already had, are with the CPS for a charging decision, 2 are about to be submitted to the CPS, and 1 is undergoing a possible extradition from Nigeria. So I am happy that there is strong grip around our age disseminated cases. There are 2 parts in the local pack which I'll cover in the national, which follow a national trend around a reduction in the number of protect engagements and the numbers for 28-day disseminations. And there is then a point around the ECCA delegates, which we will have a paper later on in the meeting, which will cover the performance there. Moving on to the national pack then, again, a good Q2, but I think what we're starting to see, and this is part of a wider point, is that we are now halfway through our 23-28 national strategy for fraud, economic crime and cyber. About half of the deliverables in that are work package deliverables. Have we done it? Have we not? Of which we are 80 to 90% we've delivered it. Of our performance measures, you can see lots of year-on-year improvement, quarter-in-quarter improvement, but some of them are coming to the end of their lifespan. So how many people have we trained in a certain cyber thing? Because we've trained so many in the last 2.5 years, there's not very many left now to train. So cyber training and protect are areas flagging red. I would say for both, it's time for a significant refresh of the measures. And my proposal will be to bring back to February ESCCC what tweaks we should make to the performance framework going into 25-26, so that you are holding us 26-27, so that you are holding us to account on the most stretching measures for now, as opposed to some of those of 2.5 years ago. Protect in particular is a reduction, as you can see, around those engagements, because I think as we are growing in maturity and are just undergoing a new protect strategy on how we protect victims, the idea that we're going to get around everybody, all 60 million in face-to-face events is not the reality. And as we start to see some of the online crime centre stop and block and what's possible in report fraud, and as we start to get some of the evidence base in from things like Op Aegis about whether those face-to-face events deliver behavioural change or not, we are pivoting towards more of a, I guess, social media, online, but also brand partnerships in reality is, I think, where we will head. So rather than necessarily police staff or police officers delivering training events, how are we partnering with trusted brands to improve? So that will be much conversation in 2026. But again, I think you will continue to see potentially a reduction in some of those protect engagements as we pivot the strategy away from more face-to-face environments. Other points just to raise. So FCRAS and the imminent launch of report fraud means that we are down on our 28-day disseminations, as we've seen for the last quarter as well. We absolutely hope that post go live and into quarter 4, so you'll probably see this again for quarter 3, but by quarter 4, we hope to be in an outstandingly good place comparatively as the new technology is in place. So that's a performance dip that we've known about was going to come, and it has come. CRCs, you can see some performance on cyber resilience centres, again, because it's undergoing a significant period of change. That change programme will complete by the end of December. So again, we would hope by Q4, you will see an improvement there. And then the final bit to say is around AMLAR, the money laundering sections where we are flashing red. This is for 2 reasons. One is around disruptions, where disruptions are calculated by an ATMIS system that's run by the NCA. As that system's matured since go live about 2 or 3 years ago, the guidance is being refreshed about what you can count. So there has been a correction on what can be counted, which is why you see a reduction, and that will be the new normal. It's happening across all SOC threats. So we will likely see a similar correction in the coming quarters around fraud and cyber as that guidance has updated and people realise that for some things they now can no longer count them, that they could count them before. So it's a trend that we see in AMLAR. That will be the new normal. We expect a strong Q3 and Q4, particularly after a successful Operation Mechanise, which has been an intensification that's gone through all of October around money laundering on the high street. That's had 2,000 premises visited, 93 warrants, 170 arrests, nearly 7 million in seizures, nearly 5 million in account freezing orders. So we will see that go up in the next quarter, but the new baseline, as the ATMIS guidance is updated, will be the case, and expect to see that for fraud and cyber in the coming quarters. The other issue with AMLAR is, as I think we've talked about before, is that we currently use a system called JARD for a lot of our seizures and account freezing orders, and sometimes our crypto. We are moving to ARIT. That system will land next November. So we are likely to have a pretty bumpy year in terms of our data recording because it's incomplete and inconsistent nationally. And that's, again, what we absolutely know from our private sector partners, that our crypto seizures in terms of what we've got held is going up and up and up. We're just not seeing that reflected in the systems due to compliance issues. And there's a discussion on how much time you put in trying to change national compliance on a system that's in the last 9 months of its life. So we'll see. But those are, I hope, some useful explanatory points to take you through the areas of red. I am not significantly concerned about any of the areas that are red. I think there are reasonable explanations underneath them, beyond what we've talked about before as some of the long-term performance challenges around the Economic Crime Academy, which we've got the paper coming for. But I would, if you would be willing, without being too disruptive, I would like to bring back to you what I think are the measures that could help you to hold us to account in the next 2.5 years of that strategy cycle that are most relevant for today.
Thank you. Just Jason and then Andrew. Jason.
Great, thank you, Chair. My reading of the stats sort of, I thought you probably would say that there was nothing that sort of gave you long-term concern, which is great. Look, a couple of things from my point of view. Obviously, there was that on page 18. There was that improving outcome for victims. There was that one particular case, but I was wondering if you could give me a sense of what in the business terms we would call it underlying performance was. If you took that one case out, would we still be heading in the right direction in terms of outcomes for victims? And when I was reading about the training, and you talk about others providing the training, my first thought was, are we doing a sort of train the trainer type of exercise, and whether that was going to be the part of the paper and that you were going to sort of bring forward to us in February, for exactly that reason, is could we train people to provide that training to sort of mushroom it out from there? The other thing was, I thought, Chair, we were around Peel and the inclusion of fraud as part of inspections, and we were going to try and do something to promote our courses, particularly as this sort of came through. Do we have a sort of strategy for sort of writing to police commissioners or others to offer this within the context of we can help you improve your Peel performance kind of thing? So they're the three areas I particularly wanted to focus on.
Thank you. Andrew?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just keep it brief. So it was really around the protect events, and I welcome what you're suggesting with a much sort of change of focus and a broader focus, particularly on online. I think our face-to-face approach, very effective though it may have been, it really is time to move on because the rest of the world already has. So with that in mind, would it be possible for this committee to get us an early look at what that broad strategy is, rather than a detailed plan, just something that we can see, because there's lots to go for. I mean, I've just had to complete 20 hours of CPD, which is a real struggle, in the last 10 days. Should have done it much earlier, but had there been a cyber course for an hour, sponsored by the police on the ICAW website, I would have done it. So there are lots of things, I think. That will not be the only example, I'm sure, if we all put our heads together. So if we could see a high-level plan, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly on Cyber 5 and the CRC model evolution, just maybe you can bring that to life a little bit in terms of the journey, because it's going to be such an important part of how we support across the nation moving forward. So that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Lovely. I'll defer the CRC one to Nick, if that's all right. I think the first question was around the tech disruptions big whale case we had last year. Is the underlying performance improving? I would say yes, on the relevant measures of today. So those tech industry disruptions come from the DCPCU, and in terms of what they've done this year compared to last, they've saved £75 million of potential fraud offences. Last year, they saved 53 million. So I'm happy that their underlying performance is absolutely tracking up. What, again, I would want to do is that this is looking at one unit of ours. What report fraud will enable is us to be able to say, what are the stop and block disruptions we're doing across the whole piece, numbers of website takedowns, numbers of social media takedowns. So again, in a refreshed performance framework, I would want to bring you those kind of headlines so that you can really see the full pulp contribution to that really important future way of prevention. In terms of training, so yes, we absolutely we have been promoting the courses as part of something that we've been doing, which is a lunch and learn series, very tight 30 minutes for all the assistant chief constables and strategic leaders around the country. So we last month did that on what was called the Fraud Performance Accelerator. These are the 5 areas of Peel. These are the 5 things that we know from our force visits are the big issues. And here are the recipe, how-to instructions as a strategic leader, the questions to ask, the things to look at to see if your force is on track or not. And part of that was, here's the catalogue of courses, here's what we suggest, etc. It was rated 9 out of 10 value for time and went from 5 out of 10 confidence in the audience at the beginning to lead this kind of performance into 8 out of 10 at the end. So it was a successful, tight injection. And we now do an equivalent in this next 48-hour period where we do a lot of report fraud comms to a lot of different audiences, but we are rerunning a second lunch and learn on report fraud, what's changing. And it may be that that becomes a successful way of communicating better to strategic leaders, and we could do one on an ARIS accelerator. You know, there are various options of how we do it, but yes, underlying selling, this is how we can support and help and what is available. On protect events, so I saw the first draft of the strategy yesterday and had some significant feedback for it, but I would, if we thought that was sensible, would very much want to bring it back here, particularly because I do think that the underlying brand partnerships, like you say, how do we work alongside people who are exceptional at creating some of this content and also have the reach to customers that are far bigger than we will ever have? How do we do that together? And I would very much welcome the strategic advice on some of the entry routes and most fruitful partnerships to go after nationally. And I think that would be extraordinarily welcome locally if we were able to land some of those really effective national partnerships with very high reach. And then the final point on CRCs.
Thanks. I'll probably tie it into what Tor's just said on the protect strategy as well, because this is all about having a holistic approach on how we connect up frontline mainstream policing, the specialist protect officers, and then the Cyber Resilience Centre network as that continues to evolve, and then making sure that through the reframing of the new national strategy, the focus that the Security Minister and the Fraud Minister are putting on building resilience in the public, which in some respects I could say sort of feels, I suppose, like there are elements of that are about the mass sheep dipping that I think we do need to move beyond, but recognising that there are areas where we can use banking partnerships and others to really significantly drive contact with the public through their existing routes. And as part of the development of the strategy, we have an embed from UK Finance to make sure that we're joining up what banking and what policing are doing, so we get more consistency of messaging across the system. The Cyber Resilience Centres then by the 17th of December will have all moved back in under policing control and management. Significant amount of work ongoing, including quite complex legal work around the TUPE arrangements to move people from the kind of current private sector model back into the public sector model. We've appointed a new superintendent who will then coordinate a small team at the centre to make sure that we're delivering a much more consistent programme of work right across the country. And that tied into Peel, tied into the work that we're doing to improve the understanding of the role of frontline policing, will connect up those specialists working with businesses with the mainstream policing who can get the referrals in about who on their high street needs the help and support of the Cyber Resilience Centres. So taking through the fraud strategy, the protect strategy, a holistic view of how we do protect, I think is going to be what's going to transform all of the different elements. There's kind of some of the parts will be, the whole will be much greater than the sum of the parts in that respect. And we also met yesterday to review then our internal leadership structures to make sure that under one chief superintendent, moving forward into next year, we have all of these different elements of protect prevention activity brigaded under one command structure. And that will also ensure that we make sure that all of the different dots up are connected.
Thank you. I'm keen to move on, but I have Dawn and James and then Jason, but then let's wrap up with us. I warned you.
Thank you, Chair. Very quickly then. My first question was, under the National Reporting Service, it says that the Fraud and Cybersecurity Reporting Analysis Service objectives will be added when the system launches. Do we know what those objectives are? And would it be good to have sight of those if we could? And then secondly, on the fraud and pursue, I think you've answered this, Tor, but it'd be good to see the before and after, and actually where where the fracas system is going to make a huge difference, because we can show its added value. Now, thinking a few years ahead, all systems need to evolve, and we're going to end up having to go back for some more money in a year, 2 years, 3 years. If we can show how this is making a massive impact, it'll be a lot easier to go with the begging bowl, as it were, to get a little bit more money for upgrades and things like that. So be really keen to see the value added as the system comes on. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted a little bit of clarification, because I think that what we were hearing in the initial remarks about the importance of reporting and understanding the data and the crypto seizures and so on. I understand that we're in a transition from one system to another, but 9 months is a relatively long period of time for us to perhaps not know exactly what's going on. And you commented that there was an issue with the system, but then you started talking about compliance issues. Now, to my mind, a change of the digital system and compliance is not necessarily the same thing, and I wasn't quite sure whether there were two issues with getting information or one. Could you just help me understand? Thank you.
And then on that point, actually, I think, because you kind of talked also around the updated guidance and changing the figures and so on, but for us, to your point, to really understand what's going on, and asset recovery is key to the success. I feel probably a deep dive of some sort around assets recovery, understanding the baseline, understanding the new normal, but really understanding if we are changing the dial here or not would be helpful. Jason.
Thank you, Chair. Is the clarification on the CRCs, now they're coming back under policing, and what opportunities that gives us to look at how we can develop those. We've got sort of some notes in the papers about membership development, but it would be good to sort of understand how that feeds into our national responsibilities, but also opportunities to engage further, particularly with senior people in the city as well.
Thank you. Relatively short, if you can.
Okay, I'll come to Chris for the FCRAS points and Nick for the CRC points to follow up on the information around money laundering. So it is two issues. We have low compliance and clarity amongst all forces putting onto JARD things like their crypto seizures, because in some ways the system is clunky and difficult to use, and we are trying to evolve to a much better system in ARID that will help that. So I can't incentivize people to comply more through any carrot method until I have the ARID system there. So it's about how much effort we put in to a stick around comply with a very clunky system on it, or whether we can get that information in other ways. So I definitely think there is a piece of work we can do between now and the next pack, for example, on crypto seizures, to determine, it's not unorthodox, but we might, for example, take some of that data from some of our private sector storage partnerships as a more reliable, centrally able to be accessed piece of information than waiting for everyone to do their updates that we know are patchy and kind of inaccurate or late. So I think there is something we can do in the short term to improve the data a bit, but I cannot promise you that it will be, that I'd bet my mortgage on it until the ARID system is in place effectively. And that's part of trying to corral 43 forces, 9 different rock queues, the level of negotiation that has to go on to get that consistency of data is challenging if you haven't got the IT system bang on, which we haven't yet. So that's why it's sort of both points. Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Tor, so in terms of the business benefits of fracas, so it's a GMPP programme, so part of our business case is a significant work around the business benefits, and we have them all tracked. I think we shared at this committee the theory of change document that drives it from the national outputs right down to all the individual benefits we expect to achieve. All of those will be tracked. And we're looking at the moment, working with the performance team about how the benefits track to the performance measurement and management as well, so we can help illustrate and drive those. In short, I think we're covered on it, Chair, but I'd propose maybe we bring back the theory of change and the long list of business benefits we're expected to drive in those targets, and back to this committee next cycle, now that it's coming alive. We did share some interim benefits in the briefing pack before the police authority dinner. I think they're in the pack as an appendix here as well, with some of the stuff we've seen in starting to introduce the back end system. And there's a long list of those that we can share.
I think that's fine. I think it's more around the ongoing kind of measurement of it, and in a systematic way, so that if and when, as Dawn is right to say, we might need to ask for investments, we have it ready, rather than scrambling.
We're absolutely working on that
Yeah.
live at the moment on one of our bigger projects that might come to fruition as well.
Great. I think that was sorry. Yes, Nick.
Thanks. So yes, we can absolutely do that. We built a network of national ambassadors that we would want to use in that. So there are, I think, circa 26 big national companies now who work with us to reach supply chains across different sectors. As part of that, I think it would make sense for us to bring back an update on the new model, the structure, how all of these different bits fit together, because I do agree there absolutely will be a role for the city in supporting that going forward. Just one comment on JAR, just so for members' awareness. We are from the city. I'm leading that programme to replace the JAR system with ARIT. There are nationally, just to give you a sense of the complexity, 186 different users of the current JAR system, because it is used for the recording of financial investigations right across the public sector. So it's a significant undertaking. It's being delivered through the Police Digital Service, and delivered at pace, because the current platform upon which the JAR system sits has to be turned off in just over 12 months' time. So there's a very limited window within which the system can be replaced. And as Tor said, there are undoubtedly compliance issues. There are also significant issues in that, bit like action fraud, when the system was designed, we weren't dealing with the complexities of cryptocurrency, and it's not configurable in the ways that we would want it to be. Plus, there are different police powers that are used to seize assets, some of which are recorded on JAR, some of which are recorded on other local systems. So again, as Tor's alluded to, using the cryptocurrency storage vehicle as a mechanism to see how much money is being seized by policing is probably the most accurate way we're going to see the scale of what we're achieving at the moment. But we will work, because we need to anyway for our own operational reasons, but we'll work really hard to bring back data that is as accurate as possible on that. Thank you.
Great. I'm going to go to Ollie, and then I'm going to close, if that's okay.
Just very briefly on Jason's point, rest assured, at officer level, we're already in discussions with colleagues in ING and Mansion House about how we can use our existing networks to reach out to future ambassadors. And I hope members have noticed in recent Lord Mayor's speeches the reference to the CRC offer across the UK as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That was item 4, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. At item 5, we have the summary of action fraud public complaints data Q2 2025 to 26. This is for information on pages 39 to 44.
Yeah, and this provides members with an overview regarding action fraud complaints. I'll take it as read. Are there any questions? Yes, Melissa, and then James.
I think at thank you, Chair. I think at the last meeting that there was a request for outcomes. I can't see outcomes on this report, so I'm wondering what's happened and whether we can see it in a future one.
Jason.
I note that the increase in members of Parliament putting forward complaints. I just want to make sure that all the members of Parliament who are complaining, who are making complaints about action fraud, are going to get some kind of communication about report fraud.
Yes, and on that one, do you work with the City Corporation and Remembrances team? Because it would be good to know if members of Parliament, we do. Okay, cool. Yeah, if they complain, then because the likelihood we have contact with them in another way is quite high. So outcomes, and then a question around MPs.
Yes, we'll take the outcomes one away. This is obviously produced through professionals in the trust division. Oh, Callie's there, so she might be able to answer that one. Sorry, Callie, got to go.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, Chair. And it might be a confusion in terms of what the ask was. So we've added in terms of appeals. So you can see that in terms of the numbers of appeals from the complaints. But in terms of outcomes, we can absolutely add that to the next pack. I just need a bit of clarity in terms of what the ask is around that.
I mean, was the complaint upheld or not upheld, for example? And then you can see whether, if none of the complaints are upheld, then there's very little concern. But if they're all upheld, it helps us to hold this accountable.
Yes, no, understood. I will be able to get that information for you. I'll be able to get it prior to the next committee and can send that through if that's helpful. So yeah, apologies. I think the understanding was around numbers of appeals, which essentially in terms of how many complaints have been upheld, which for that quarter that there were no complaints that were upheld from an appeals perspective.
Funny enough, I mean, if no complaints are upheld, it's also interesting question. So let's take it offline and let's have a little look what gives the right kind of information. But yeah, no, that's understood. But you know what I mean? It's like if it's 100% not upheld, what is, you know?
Yeah, we'll just make sure that within the table there is a in terms of the timeliness, the outcome that was achieved, whether there's appeal against that outcome and whether that appeal was upheld or not. I think that will give the overview that you're seeking.
And then just Jason's question around MPs.
Yeah, they're part of the target segment for the launch of report fraud that we're looking at, but we will work with Ollie and ensure that's plugged in through the corporation and remembrance as well. I think it is, but we're definitely working through it.
Ollie?
Indeed, and just very briefly, had our policing APPG last Monday. It's the highest attended APPG that the policing group have run. Nick was presenting on fraud and the new report fraud system, extreme interest there, and we've identified there might be opportunities in the new year to swiftly follow the public launch of further parliamentary engagement as well.
Yeah, I'm glad my peer friends took heed of my advice to ask as many difficult questions as possible. Apparently it worked, so that's good.
Over an hour and 10 minutes.
Yes, so thank you. Thank you for that engagement. Well, I was with the fraud minister earlier together with Ollie, and he very much enjoyed sitting in the back. And he said it was really positive, so he was pleased. He'd like to hear. Okay, on that was item 5, town clerk.
At item 6, we have the Cyber Griffin update. This is for information on pages 45 to 48.
Yeah, so this provides members with an update on Q2 performance of Cyber Griffin, which remains on track and has its highest performing year up to date. So again, we'll take it as read if that's okay. Are there any questions? No? Just to congratulate the team on that, and it was interesting to read on page 47 around the new service for parents and guardians in a square mile. So at some point it might be interesting to hear a little bit more about that. But that's great offer. As a parent myself, not in a square mile. That was item 6, town clerk.
At item 7, we have questions on matters relating to the work of the committee. I'm not aware of any.
Are there any questions in public? No. Yeah, so then we have item 8, any other business?
Thank you, Chair. So apologies for this, but we were made aware that item 15, action tracker, is actually meant to be considered in public session. So if the chair is happy to move this to be considered in public session, I propose.
Very happy for us to take this item in public session. Just let's check what page we are.
97.
Yeah. All the way to the back. Are there any questions on the tracker? They are either completed or in progress, so that's good. James,
just one observation and question, Chair, to see if we could make some improvement. I often encounter this with the committee work that we do, that the corporation's committee cycle and so on is apparently not the cycle that the police would like. But we've been around a very long time, and I'm always concerned when any of the aspects, as we see in the update, is that, you know, there's challenges with timing. I think perhaps we need to send a message via yourself and your colleagues on the main board about the importance of these timings, because too often I find things do come a little bit late, or we're told that there's a timing issue. Our committee dates are well set long in advance. I don't really understand why we keep having this mentioned, and I just thought we should flag up that police just have to meet with the timetable. I'm sorry, but that's what they have to do.
Yep. It's always a challenge, although I do think that a conversation perhaps with the police authority team to see if there is room where we can move it to another meeting in the year, then happy to consider. But if not, we do need as much of the information available at a timely manner. And it's true that most of the agendas are set well in advance. But if that requires, if you're struggling on an annual basis and it requires a shift, then raise it. If not, then we expect it to be there. Deputy Commissioner.
Thank you. I think the only point to make that the only time it's difficult is when we're just hitting the end of a respective quarter and making sure that from the date that quarter ends to the date of the meeting, there's enough time to do the analysis and produce the performance pack and circulate that. And I think that's often where the clash is. On every other matter, I think we absolutely will endeavour to meet any of the meeting dates.
Perhaps when Town Clerk, when the committee meetings are set, perhaps it would be good at that stage to double check if there are any of those things likely to occur, to be fair. Jason.
I mean, with local policing, we've had that conversation at our last meeting as well. I mean, there's no point looking at Q1 data in Q3. I mean, it feels like ancient history. So I'd rather move the meeting dates. But I think it's important that we look at that as close as we can. And
Yeah, challenge we have within the corporation is there are so many meetings and it needs to fit in with that as well. But that's a task for the Town Clerk to look at. Thank you very much. Anything else on the tracker? That was item 15, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. At item 9, we have exclusion of the public. Do members agree to exclude the public?
To exclude and just to thank members of the public for watching this live or watching this back, and we'll pause until the live stream is ended.
Thank you, Chair.